All right, all right. It is 12:31, and you are tuned into Heart Connections with your heart coach, Adelai Brown, right here on KineticHiFi.com, your community station with international inspiration. This segment of Heart Talk is brought to you by my new book, Help Save Me from My Broken Heart, Your Journey to Living and Loving Again. And you can pre-order your copy of Help Save Me from My Broken Heart at theheartconnections.com. Theheartconnections.com. Today it's Think About It Tuesday, and we're thinking about what we're thinking about. Many times we go through life and we do not think about what we're thinking about. And because of that, we we go through senseless cycles of dysfunction, hurt, pain, frustration, prejudice, racism, all types of bad things because we don't think about what we're thinking about. We just go with the norm. I've heard people say, I watched an interview with Pastor Steve Furtick and Charlemagne the God, and they actually were in the same. They're both from Moncks Corner, South Carolina. They both were at the same school at the same time, but they did not meet each other until they were both celebrities, and they connected because people heard they knew Charlemagne was from Moncks Corner and they knew Pastor Steve was from Moncks Corner. And when I watched the video, I realized, and even they talked about how what they thought about each other as far as their race, the color of their skin, it separated them. These are two men who have made an impact all over the world, and they were literally at school at the same time and didn't really know each other because of what they thought about each other. And what they thought about each other came from the worldview that they had, what they grew into, the families that they came from, the way their families interacted with people who looked like them. So Stephen's family his dad had certain thoughts about black people, and Charlemagne's family had certain thoughts about white people. And those thoughts were the reason, a big part of the reason why these two did not meet each other until later on in life, even though they were all from the same space. And that's what I want to talk about in this segment of our Think About What You're Thinking About on this Think About It Tuesday. I want to talk to you about your worldview. What is your worldview? Because when we talk about thinking and we like to tell people they need to think a certain way and they need to act a certain way, what we have to realize is we have to think about the base from which we're starting. What is the core of this person's thoughts? What is the foundation of what they're thinking? Where are these thoughts coming from? A worldview is defined by the American Scientific Affiliation. It's defined as a worldview is a view of the world used for living in the world. It is a mental model of reality, a comprehensive framework of ideas and attitudes about the world, ourselves, and life. A system of beliefs, a system of personally customized theories about the world and how it works, with answers for a wide range of questions. So your worldview is the framework of how you believe. So your worldview shapes your beliefs shape your values, and your values shape your behavior. The behavior is like the tip of the iceberg. We like to deal with people's behavior, especially with children. We like to deal with behavior. So we want to deal with the behavior, but we don't want to deal with the beliefs that brought about that behavior. We don't want to deal with the values that brought about those beliefs. And then the biggest thing we have trouble dealing with is the worldview that brought about it all. And one of these things we can really see, one thing I can see, I can make it personal about me when I've been having a lot of conversations lately about race in America, racism in America, prejudice in America. We're talking about thinking about what we're thinking about. One of the things that I found when that comes about is when you're dealing with someone and what they think about someone that's different from them. It could be their race, it could be their gender, it could be their socioeconomic class, however we decide that we want to separate ourselves from people. A lot of times the behavior, remember, that's the tip of the iceberg. We have to remember the behavior is stemming from the base of their worldview. So certain people have been, I've had people when I walk in the room, I've had certain white people when I walk in the room or sit next to them, they would get up and move, or they would clutch their purse tighter, or respond in a certain way, say, make certain derogatory comments so that I can hear. And I realized that is a behavior. And for a while, it would upset me and I would get frustrated because of what I was thinking. I have always in society seen where a lot of times subliminally, as a person of color in America, we are subliminally taught and things are projected to us as if we're less than and as if we're not good enough. So if our worldview is built around that idea, this subliminal teaching of inferiority and this thought process of inferiority, then our worldview and then my values and my beliefs and then my behaviors will all support that. So I had to think about that when I would think about the people who would get up and move when I came or clutch their purses or make those comments. I have to realize that this behavior is stemming from a worldview. And if I ever want to see that behavior change, that worldview has to change. And I think that what people don't see in society, and I'm not saying that I have all the answers for it, but it's like we want to skip, we want to get the finish, but we don't want to work through the crux and do the steps that need to be done and take the steps that need to be taken to get to the outcome that we need. It takes a lot of work to change someone's worldview. Your worldview, another way of saying it, is a comprehensive conception or apprehension of the world, especially from a specific standpoint, especially from a specific standpoint. And you hear people say things like two groups have very different worldviews. So you can have two groups that are fighting against abortion, but the worldview from which they found this fight on could be drastically different. And when I think about race and racism in America, that is one of the biggest things that I think about. I think about our worldview. When we think about what we have to think about, and when we think about things like the school to prison pipeline, things of that nature, we have to look at our worldview. How do we view ourselves and the world around us? What is the conception that we have of the world? If your worldview is that this world is bad and all people of color are bad, and everybody's dumb who doesn't live in this neighborhood or doesn't do this for a living, then your values, your beliefs, and then your behavior will all represent that worldview. So when we think about what we think about, we have to think, what is your worldview? What is your comprehensive conception of what this world is? Why are you here? What are you doing here? These are the types of things we need to be thinking about when we want to get our lives in order. Because you have to think about this when you turn on the news and you see things like 4 people being gunned down in a Waffle House. For what? From some of the articles I'm reading, because of someone's worldview being distorted. And so their behavior is dysfunctional. And now you have lives senselessly killed because of what? Because of ignorance, because of hate, because of evil, because someone's thoughts have gone out of control and now it is affecting the world around them. And you might not be picking up an AR-15 or going or walking around dropping bombs on people, but the spirit that you carry with you could make people feel the same way and have the same impact on people. And those are some of the things that we need to be thinking about when we're thinking about our worldview and thinking about what we're thinking about. How do you view this world? How do you view the people you work with and the people you live with? How do you view the people that you see at the grocery store? What about the children that your children go to school with? How do you view them? Many of us, I went to a money matters conference this past Saturday, and they were just talking about the debt in the Black community, but not just the Black community. The national debt in the United States is not just Black people in debt. But the problem with why there has been a systemic generational lack of wealth and transfer of wealth finances in the Black community, a lot of it is based on the worldview that so many people have. And it's not, it's counterproductive, it's counterintuitive, it's not working for us growing and thriving. It's not just a Black thing, but I'm talking about this specifically because when we talk about worldviews, this is what forms culture. This is what forms what we value and what we don't value. When we can put more value on the clothes that we have on our back than the roof that we have over our head, there's a problem. But you won't know that that's a problem if that fits into your worldview. And these are the types of things that we have to think about. Think about what you're thinking about. If it's always been okay for people in your family to be very promiscuous and sleep around, and that worldview is okay, you use what you got to get what you want type of mindset, then you're going to do that. But that won't work out for you when you're diagnosed with HIV and things of that nature. Then what do? The behavior that came about from your worldview is not working for you. The behavior that came about from that young man shooting those people in that Waffle House, that's ridiculous. But before we want to go and just fight and pick at his behavior, which was atrocious, we have to be honest and we have to be fair and look at what brought about that behavior. That was just the fruit. What was at the root? What is the worldview? So when we start thinking about what we're thinking about, we need to be paying attention to the worldview, the comprehensive conception of the world, especially from our standpoint and our point of view. What is your worldview? How do you view the world? Because it's impacting how you live your life. It's impacting how people live their lives around you. And you need to get clear on how you view the world because it's like walking around with shades on. And sunshades, they look cool, they look nice, they work with the sun and everything, but they distort how you view the world around you. The world is not that dark, it's a lot brighter. The colors are different. And many of us, it's time for us to switch the lens. We have to start looking at things differently. Switch your worldview. Think about what you're thinking about. This has been Heart Talk with your heart coach, Adelai Brown. Make sure you pre-order your copy of Help Save Me from My Broken Heart and register for the Help Save Me Mother's Day brunch, Saturday, May 12th. We'll be back with more. In the meantime, people every day, Arrested Development right here on KineticHiFi.com.